All right, welcome into 8 Things, where we look at the 8 things that you need to be doing well on your website to make it work better. And this is the real estate edition. We're going to be looking at a real estate site today and looking through the homepage to see how well they're handling these 8 things. I'm Justin Davis, UX designer for 20 years.
I'm Chris Klaus, product and marketing guy for 20 years.
Excellent. And let's jump in and take a look at it. We're looking today at the Jennifer Zales real estate site out of Tampa, Florida, and we're going to see how well she does here. And we're going to start out, as we always do, looking at the hero. That is the big thing up front, the welcome mat onto the website. Chris, we've got a lot of motion here. We got a video, we got scrolling words that are coming in. What do we think?
Well, it imparts luxury. So I will go ahead and say, and the top says luxury. We'll get into brand and everything else later, but like just my first gut feel is luxury, which I really, really like because there is, a good thing here. However, from a pure structure of a hero, it's a miss. And the reason I say that is because it's fine to have these big bold titles. It's fine to like loop through it a little bit, but it's missing a little bit of subtext and there's zero calls to action. And the one thing that you really should have in your hero is some form of a call to action. That's my gut.
Yep, I completely agree. There's no call to action here. And the other thing I'll say, I'll agree, I think the video is really done really nicely, right? Like a lot of people get this wrong. This is done really nice. High quality video, loads quickly, no audio, very textural. To your point, it really does exude a sense of luxury and niceness about it. But the missing call to action is a major, major problem. It's like having a door and not putting a doorknob on it. It doesn't it looks fine, but nobody can go in. And the other thing that I'll say is that the copy here, I think, is really weak in the hero. Number one agent. And by the way, do you notice how they qualify it? When it says number one agent Florida and number one agent another one, they put Coldwell Banker up there on the top because it's not this specific thing. It's Coldwell Banker. Well, of course, they're one of the largest real estate companies out there, right? And so this is I think, a little deceiving. And B, it provides no value.
I think the only reason I would disagree with you, and by the way, we're allowed to disagree with each other, is because when you show a qualitative or quantitative number, especially in the luxury market, it does add to brand, which again we'll discuss later, about that you are credible and you are a resource and that you know what you're doing. And so I think it's there. Don't love the way it cycles through them necessarily. Don't love the missing call to action, but because of the video alone, and because they do have some quantitative stuff, I would probably give it like a 6 or a 7 out of 10, just based on the quality of the video and the speed of the site.
Yeah. And, you could do something, you could make a quick tweak with this because I agree. I think using the numbers is great. I think you can make a quick tweak and you could do something like work with the number one agent in Tampa Bay that specializes in luxury housing. Get in touch, like book a realtor down. You get it all in there. It's more action oriented. It has more brand to it. It qualifies what they're about. There's something to be desired there.
Now, the funny thing is we spent almost 3 minutes on the hero. That's how much we liked it and how much it needed help at the same time. And
Absolutely.
So moving into the next thing, we should talk about a secondary call to action.
Yeah, so let's look down. We want a secondary call to action because the door here has no doorknob. But even if it did, we need other ways to get people into the site. We need other things that will appeal to people. So let's look through and see what we have. I mean, we've got this extraordinarily weak book an appointment thing here that no one is ever going to see.
I would tend to agree. The calls to action that are supposed to be part of the hero, which is the search for an area or the book an appointment, those actually aren't terrible, but they're a little bit small.
Yep.
And so really what she needs at the bottom of this is a nice fat honking call to action that says, work with the number one. I would use almost potentially what Justin just said earlier, work with the number one agent in Tampa for luxury real estate. book an appointment today. That should be right on the bottom, right above the footer.
Yep. Yep. And should be more prominent here. I mean, this is a nice treatment. I do like how this sticks here. That's pretty well done, but it is so small and it's so insignificant. I think it's really underperforming.
Double the size of the text and the calls to action there, and it would probably increase the click through rate on those, 2 or 3x.
Yep. And or
So
move them into the hero as buttons, right? Or some other type of input and redesign that.
yeah,
So do you have something else there?
no, that was it.
All right, great. Let's go on to navigation. Let's take a look at the nav. So, nav across the top, exclusive listings, sold properties, home search, news about Jennifer, contact. And then we also have the junk drawer navigation, where we have a whole bunch of other stuff in here that we have shoved in. There's a lot of navigation here. And there's actually, what's interesting is there's a lot of repetition between these two things with this hamburger menu and the main navigation.
I would tend to agree. And I think if you've listened to any of our previous shows, you know that I'm not I don't dislike the hamburger menu. Um, but in this particular case, they have almost everything the same. So I might have it, let's say, like more, and then only show the things that aren't listed,
Yeah.
or when it's collapsed to mobile, show all. It's a little bit confusing when you do both. However, of the visible nav, I think they've done a great job on the branding for Jennifer and for Coldwell Banker. And I really like exclusive listings being first,
Hmm.
because that word of exclusive reinforces that luxury, that high end feel. Even though in this case, exclusive listing doesn't mean that they are luxury. It just happens to be that the word reinforces it. And so I think it's really well done. And you can tell they spent some time and effort working through this. Sold properties, it already tells you, like, hey, we sell properties. And by the way, go check out some of the quality of the things that we've done in the past. Really love those first two being right there front and center. So
Yep.
on the nav, I would give it probably, again, personally, I'd give it like a 7 out of 10 because of those two up front and the fact that there's a home search is number three. Everything else, the footer, the other links, and the fact that you have the nav and it opens up more things. I really love those three being front and center.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the only qualm I might have is I really would love to see home search treated differently. I would love to see that maybe punched out on a colored background, with like inverse copy, maybe putting it over on one end, probably over on the far right hand side of the nav as kind of a built-in call to action into the nav, as well as what it is, because it is the most important part probably of the nav in terms of conversions, getting people into an action that's going to lead them to potentially buy a home. So I think I might give that a little bit more importance, but I agree. I love the exclusive listings. I think Soul Properties is great. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good. So yeah, I agree. I agree with your rating there. Let's move on to copy and take a look at the copy here through the site. So we'll take a spin down. We start with a block of text that I'm not really going to read, but it looks like a lot, and it's all about Jennifer.
Which
Uh,
which I don't hate, right? Because this is a personal site
yep,
for her, and I like that it's relatively small and contained, so it's not like 6 pages of scrolling. But what I will say is that the copy is what we call a giant wall of text, and that huge paragraph should be broken up into maybe a subtitle or some bullets, or make it cleaner and easier to read.
yep,
The irony is, like, when you see a newspaper, the reason they have these thin columns is because the human eye has an easier time reading thin lines than longer lines. And so I think just breaking it up into chunks would do a lot here. I don't know why somebody would necessarily want to immediately share from this section. So I feel like that's a weaker call to action. I would probably just have learn more and make it look more like a button.
yeah. I
But
think
anyway, from a copy perspective, I think that's my primary feedback is that there's not really good chunking.
yeah. There's not. There should be a line break at least right here. Right. There should be at least two paragraphs. Y'all on the web, three three sentences per paragraph. If you can get away with it, like you got to chunk things up into shorter chunks. People don't read on the web like they read in books and in newspapers. It's a different type of medium. It's got to be smaller. It's got to be chunked more, right? So this could definitely be broken into a couple things. The other thing that I'm going to gripe about here a little bit is I hate this heading, just her name. Like, tell me about what is special about you. Give me something here that's more interesting because as we look at the copy going from the header into here, it's just a really weak transition. There could
Y
be a much stronger title here to transition us into the rest of the website than just her name.
yeah, so Jennifer, if you're watching this is what I would say. Why work with Jennifer Zales? And I would say, uh the number, and I would have bullets, the number 1 Tampa Bay agent, the number 1 agent in Florida, Coldwell Banker, the number 5 agent in North America, Coldwell Banker. And then I would say, and I specialize in luxury sports, and I would have bullets and make it really, really clean. And then you could put a couple of little sentences, but or put those sentences above, but having the break of here's why I'm good, here's what I specialize in, nice, neat, and chunky. I think it would improve this portion a little bit and move the share to the learn more where you have your full about page. But
Mhm.
really focus this page on just why should you be working with Jennifer, and then learn more about Jennifer takes them to the whole, Kit Kat
Yep,
caboodle.
and I mean, the other thing here is this is missing a clear call to action, which is talk to Jennifer today. Book an appointment with Jennifer, whatever it is, right? I don't want to learn more. Like, why learn more if I've already learned enough? Let's get me in the door and let me book an appointment. So, like,
Love
again, not strong on the call to action. The rest of the copy here, what's nice about this is it's pretty sparse actually, and she's doing a lot with visuals to take place of needing a lot of copy to explain the story. So I think that is done pretty well.
And
Um,
we don't necessarily, have a section here, but I will say that I really, really love testimonials, and the fact that they have some testimonials on their site as well as the as
yep,
seen on. There is very good social proof here,
yep,
which really does help the brand, which we'll talk about later.
yep.
So
So
going into the
let's
narrative, right?
yep,
Perfect. We're on the same page. Going into the narrative, I will say if you scroll down, we've obviously number 1 agent, we've talked about it. Scroll down a little bit more, just a hair more. Right this next image, work with the top
yep,
real estate. I didn't even realize they had a contact button. So when I talked earlier about her needing a
yes,
big fat footer, I didn't even realize she had the secondary call to action. This contact
completely
is
hiding.
a massive, massive miss, and I wanted to call it out because I saw it when Justin was scrolling. Um, awesome. By the way, I have to re-advise my secondary call to action. You have one. I just couldn't see it, which tells you something.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
um, on
It
Hover,
should
it
look
does
like
that, but
this,
on
by the way. The hovered state is what it should look like all the time, by the way.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah,
and, the font sizes should be bigger and bolder. So there's a general rule for design, which is light on dark and dark on light, which means light text goes on dark backgrounds and dark text goes on light backgrounds. But when you have this white text over potentially, light background, it needs to be bigger and bolder so it's still readable.
yep,
That's true for everything there.
yep.
So, all right. I mean, I think from a pure narrative perspective, she has nailed the narrative that she is luxury. I think she's done that well. And I have no complaints with that.
The one thing that I will say that I think I'll take some points off for is that I agree with you on the luxury part that she's getting that it's luxury sports and entertainment real estate, right? So this is probably for professional athletes and high dollar clients, right? We need to have something somewhere that tells us that more than just buried in this little header. There needs to be three elements. It's like what we specialize in, luxury, sports, and entertainment. That needs to be more clear because she's getting really close, but not quite getting over the hump of really explaining that to qualify the correct customers.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about that in brand a little bit too.
Great.
So
So
great.
we'll
So I think we should.
save that. Let's look at some mobile readiness. Let's see how well this thing adapts to mobile. It's very important for your SEO as well as your user's experience. So, already off the bat, fine. The navigation shrinks down. Essentially, the navigation just hid because this navigation was already there. Um, we have the same. This is taking up an obnoxious amount of real estate, especially mobile. The entire full top to bottom viewport, way too much real estate used here with no call to action
Yeah,
visible.
and I think we'd have to check it on your phone. I'm not sure if the video stopped running because you shrank it, which sometimes
Yeah.
happens, or if it actually doesn't work well on mobile. So we have to check that. It loses some of its appeal for sure, but that could just be the phone thing. I will say I love, absolutely love the way the menu works. The search for your home is 100 times better on mobile,
Yeah.
and as you started scrolling, did you see these other buttons pop up? The
Yeah, on
email
the
and
bottom
phone?
here, the contact buttons, yes.
I,
Great.
um I would go ahead and say that, I don't know about the placement of the featured properties versus everything else, but and definitely still hate the secondary call to action, but this is one of the best mobile responsive that I've seen for a real estate website.
Yep.
Um,
Nailing it
so
on mobile.
nailing it on mobile.
Love it. Love to see it. Let's talk about look and feel. We've talked about look and feel quite a bit already. Um, look, I don't have any gripes here. Actually, I love the look and feel of this. I think it's elegant, it's simple, it's clean. Aside from these little missteps here, which you got to take a point or two off for that, but outside of that, he's doing a really good job visually.
Yeah,
Honestly,
agreed. Photography and video are so important for real estate websites.
yes,
Um, and they do a great job of that on this website. The part about text is actually one of the biggest things that impacts look and feel. Go take a look at a lot of websites. They are very text heavy. Real estate websites should be very image and imagery heavy. I will say on the text look and feel, it's a little bit less, especially like these just blocks of text without really clear calls to action and titles and subtitles.
yep.
But generally, this is a good site for mobile.
Generally, yeah, I'm gonna give it like an 8 out of 10
Yeah.
on look and feel, probably. A couple points off for a few detail issues, but overall, yeah, I like it. So let's wrap it up here with brand and talk about the overall brand of Jennifer Zales here and how she's doing. We talked already about the luxury. We obviously got it. We got the luxury feel. We got it from the video. We got it from how well the look and feel is polished. So we get the luxury part, but
Agreed. But yeah, so I think the but is key. And so one of the things there is it talks about like her specialties. Let's scroll down to that for a second. Her specialties of luxury, sports and entertainment, real estate. There could be a nice little section, just one section that says, I specialize in boom, boom, and boom, and then it could explain what she means by each of those, right? Like,
yes,
hey, I specialize in luxury real estate for people who live in Tampa. I specialize in helping athletes or entertainers move to the Tampa Bay area, and I have a very special way of doing that. I do X, Y, and Z differently than everybody else.
yes,
I help you, with your move. I help you with your coordination. I don't know what she helps with, but like, if you're specializing in something niche within luxury, you should be talking about why. Now, again, we talked about there's 2 reasons to in a previous video that people would use a realtor. One is referrals, and the other one is their brand. And the brand you get through, you get to the site through an advertisement or social or something else. From a referral perspective, if you're being referred by a sports star here and they've already talked to you about it, you don't need that. In the off chance that a fresh person is hitting you, I think they're missing out on the opportunity to explain their specialties and why it matters.
yeah. And the other thing that opens up and unlocks, right, is when you start talking about like, oh, we do luxury, we do sports, we do entertainment. Now you can do things like browse our best luxury listings, browse our top sports listings, browse our top entertainment listings, right? That so you can now chunk homes, your homes that have a big outdoor space, that have like a golf green in the backyard, things like that for athletes, right? The things that have like big space for entertaining or even a studio or something like that in the home, right? For entertainers, right? So there's actually opportunity here that the brand is leaving behind to actually make this a better and more usable and more effective experience by capitalizing on those specialties. And that's way buried. I think it's the biggest miss from a brand standpoint that's happening here.
But generally, it is a very clear and clean brand. So we're not taking away from that. We're just saying there's a slight opportunity to hone it in better for people who are hitting your site who were not a referral.
Yep, that's right. All right. That wraps up Jennifer Zales. Thanks for listening. Hope this was helpful. And remember, no matter how well your website is doing, it could always do better, especially if you pay attention to these 8 things. Thanks for listening.
And have a good day.